Hello and welcome to Sheffield Hallam Christian Union's penultimate night of our events week. We're here tonight with Lizzie, who's going to give us a talk titled right at the bottom here, Can We Teach Our Way to a Better Humanity? So if you haven't heard of us before and you don't know who we are the Christian Union, and we are a group of students who all share a love for Jesus, and we want to just spread the news of the gospel on campus and reach as many people as possible. So normally in non-COVID circumstances, we'd meet every week, but at the moment we're still meeting on Zoom, and we're able to put on events like this to, help spread the message of the gospel. So if you've just arrived, if you've just tuned in, we're here with Lizzie tonight, who works for the Christian Association of Teachers, and she's going to give us a talk titled, Can We Teach Our Way to a Better Humanity? So, Lizzie, it's lovely to have you with us.
Thanks.
Introduce yourself for us.
So I'm Lizzie. I work for the Association of Christian Teachers, and I have been a classroom teacher. I've worked in all kinds of schools, from the private sector in a boarding school where I lived in a boarding house with 11 and 12-year-old boys to that's how I felt at the time. And now I live not too far from Sheffield, actually, over in Doncaster. I've taught in different secondary schools around in Doncaster, but now I work for this association.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so if you've just arrived, this talk is Can We Teach Our Way to a Better Humanity? And in a minute, Lizzie will begin her talk, but just before she does, we have a Slido. So if you have any questions whilst Lizzie speaks to us, the link will appear at the bottom of the screen now, and you can type in the code. If you just Google Slido and type in the code and send some questions, and at the end she can answer that for us. You can send questions at any part of the talk, so you don't have to wait till the end. That's absolutely fine. And then afterwards, in the description box of this YouTube video, we have a Zoom call. So if you're watching along and this says something to you and you want to just talk about it more with a group of us, then we will be over on Zoom afterwards just to have a friendly catch up. No pressure. There won't be loads of us, but just, a few people having a nice chat. So that's exciting, and we'd love to see you. So Lizzie, did you teach a specific subject, or were you just a more general, tutor?
No, I taught English, secondary English, for about 10 years, but I actually didn't initially study English at university. I studied law and then went on to kind of completely change career path and became a teacher. So English was always my kind of first love at school. So
okay. How did you find that? How did you find secondary English teaching?
There were parts of it I absolutely loved, parts of it that were really stressful. I think, common to most teachers, they go into it for a love of teaching and for a love of kind of helping kids and young people develop and learn, but it was stressful.
Yeah, definitely. Not always the easiest careers.
No, you don't go into teaching for an easy life, but the vocation.
And English is a difficult one. A lot of people love it. I loved English. I did an A-level in it, and I absolutely loved it as a student. But a lot of people, I can really imagine, really struggle to engage with it and find it a much harder one.
Well, obviously, you don't get any choice, do you? Whether you study English at GCSE. So trying to kind of haul some of the students over the line, as it were, can be quite hard. But the benefits and the blessings outweigh it all.
Yes, definitely. It's a very rewarding job, I find, anyway. Yeah. I've not even started. I'm in my second year of primary education, and even just being on placement and doing little bits here and there, I find really rewarding. There's nothing else I'd rather do, I don't think.
I mean, I just find that crazy because when I think of going into a primary school, it fills me with dread and trepidation. We were talking earlier, weren't we, that there's a very distinct kind of cut off between the primary and the secondary age, and people either fit into one or the other generally.
Yeah.
And I'd be terrified of entering a classroom full of like 5-year-olds.
A lot of people say to me, when I tell them I'm doing primary education, they either be like, "Oh wow, that's so cool, that's so exciting." They look at me like, "What are you doing?" Sometimes I'm not sure myself, but I do love it. So yeah. So yeah, just in case anyone's just joined and missed the beginning, we are Sheffield Hallam Christian Union, a group of students who just want to share Jesus, and we're going to try and share Jesus to you tonight by bringing you this talk entitled "Can we teach our way to a better humanity?" So Lizzie, I'm going to hand over to you to the talk.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Lucy. Thank you so much for having me here. So yeah, we're thinking about that question there. Can we teach our way to a better humanity? Well, education has been at the forefront of many people's minds this past year, more so than ever before. Homeschooling parents have finally realised that teachers don't work simply from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. each week, and they do deserve the kudos, respect, huge thanks, copious gifts, and the holiday allocation that perhaps was before rather maligned by society. It's clear that the pandemic and its damage to children's development, their academic and social well-being, and their mental health is irrefutable. Headlines, perhaps sensationalised at the time, have injected fear into the public. The devastating toll the pandemic has played, widening attainment gaps, how our children's futures will be lost. 1 in 6 children may never be able to catch up on lost time during the pandemic without right support. Professor Russell Viner, who's president of the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, perhaps put it most clearly when he told MPs, "When we close schools, we close children's lives." A good education is seen as the key that unlocks the door of a successful and a happy life. So the message comes across then that if you don't perform well in your exams, or whatever measuring stick will be used this year, you've less value. You're going to struggle to be happy in life. A person's education is the measure by which they've made it in life or not. And this opens up then a question of what we believe about the value and purpose of education. This evening we're thinking specifically about what Christians say about education and the role it can play in bettering humanity. So I'm going to make 3 points this evening that will help us to kind of condense what a Christian view of education is and how we feel its relation is to humanity. The first point I'm going to make is that Christians have valued education down the ages. So the Bible encourages Christians to use their mind. Jesus himself learned. One of the only things we really know of his childhood is that he grew in wisdom as he grew in stature. And that is whom Christians believe to be the Son of God voluntarily put himself in a position where he needed to assimilate knowledge as a man. And education was part of that process. And Christianity has been a tremendous influence for education. Most of the world's languages were first set to writing by Christian missionaries. First book in most languages of the world has been the Bible. Christianity has been the greatest force for promoting literacy worldwide throughout history. Christian missionary movements in the 19th century pioneered tens of thousands of schools throughout Africa, Asia, Pacific Islands, providing education for countless millions, even in the remotest jungles, giving the gift of literacy to tribes that had not even had a written language. Christianity revolutionized education by making it available to all classes, both genders. Indeed, the secular historian Will Durant wrote that early Christianity offered itself without reservation to all individuals, classes, and nations. It wasn't limited to one people, like Judaism, nor to the freedmen of one state, like the official cults of Greece and Rome. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Christians founded many charity schools for poor students, Think about Thomas Bernardo's, that charity we know so well. And these schools are the basis for the development of modern concepts of primary and secondary education. And also, incidentally, we're an early provider of teacher education. So we all agree that education is a good thing. Access to primary, secondary, and even tertiary education has grown dramatically over the past couple of centuries. See rising rates of literacy around the globe. Education aids the attainment of knowledge, of skills, critical thinking, problem solving. It can illuminate dark corners with information. It can assist with social and physical development, provide readiness for the adult world. We all know that the more or the better quality education you have, the better your life chances are. You're employable. You have a key to independence. And it gives students confidence to then face the outside world. Are we, the educated, though, at a risk of a form of chronological snobbery, though? The idea that we're on a trajectory towards academic excellence, and that with this comes moral enlightenment and virtue, that the more educated we become, the more we'll know how to make the world more equitable, the more we'll understand and respect those who are different to us, the more likely we are to live in peace and harmony as a world united with shared values. Well, this idea is really blown out of the water. This brings me to my second point. Education is good, but it is inherently limited. In the 20th century, more people had access to education than ever before. Yet we still see destruction and war, famine caused by human greed, persecution of ethnic groups, racial inequality, corruption in government, human trafficking, mass kidnappings, terrorist atrocities. And our world today has more people in slavery than at any point in history. Think of individuals such as Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. You may have watched the recent show on Netflix. He was professor of mathematics and a Harvard graduate. He plans sophisticated mass murders with dry cell batteries in order to unleash mass devastation. Or Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, who masterminded the media indoctrination of the German people, fueling their hatred of Jews and other marginalised people. He had a PhD, yet his education certainly didn't produce a better humanity. Closer to home, we see all kinds of educated people displaying major character flaws or dubious morals. You only have to flick on BBC News, don't you? Corruption happens across all sectors of society. Business, government, the courts, the media, civil society, as well as across all sectors from health and infrastructure to sports and even, yes, education. We've all heard of medics who've abused the trust of their patients, bankers whose greed has led them to launder and hide illicit wealth, and teachers who've taken advantage of pupils for sexual gratification, and politicians who've lied for their own political gain. And most, if not all, of these aforementioned people will have been exposed to the very best teaching that civilized society can provide, money can buy. They may have been exposed to philosophical and political theories aplenty and have great knowledge of history, but they still cause damage to themselves and to others. I'm thinking even more personally, you yourself will know that many educated people made morally flawed choices. You may be or have been the victim of a friend's selfishness or a relation's anger. These people may be cultured and worldly. They may have academic credentials aplenty, but they still hurt you. Perhaps you are the person with an impressive academic record who considers themselves culturally aware and intellectually accomplished. But you know that your actions, your words, your choices have sometimes been unwise and unkind, caused others pain. They haven't contributed to a better humanity, even on a localized scale. I know that I'm that person, someone with an undergraduate law degree, postgraduate qualifications, and a teaching certificate, someone who values learning, has an interest in intellectual affairs. I value education highly. I run an organisation for educators. For goodness sake, I even listen to Radio 4. Yet I hurt people, even those I love, with selfishness, with angry words, with apathy and laziness. There are things I've thought and done and said in my past and my present that fill me with shame and sorrow. So we see that actually education doesn't turn wicked or bad people into good people. It only enables some people to perhaps be more cunning in their wickedness. Well, the Bible would say that no matter how much education you have, no matter how much you engage your brain with challenging concepts and explore academic theories, even if you get all grade 9s at GCSE or a first-class degree, there's no way that you can successfully educate your heart. Now, when the Bible talks about the heart, it means the centre not only of spiritual activity, of all the operations of human life. When it comes to the heart, our inner motivation, our deepest desires and longings, no teaching that can change it for the better. No coaching or mentoring can erase a deep lust for doing wrong things. And this is why the Bible calls the heart deceitful above all things. In moments of honesty, I think most of us recognise that we're not the people we want to be or should be. Think of some of the goals and targets we set ourselves regarding our character. The sad reality is we don't even live up to our own flawed, imperfect standards, let alone what Christians believe are God's perfect standards. If you doubt this, how would you feel if every single one of your secret thoughts, your actions and words were displayed on a giant screen for all to see? Wouldn't you feel shame and embarrassment? I know I would. And Jesus, he says we're to love the Lord our God, our Maker, our Creator, with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbour as ourselves. And yet we don't. We're full of self-love. We're those who stand guilty before what the Bible would say, or who the Bible would say is our loving Creator God. Even Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the Russian philosopher and academic, recognized the heart issue. If only it were all so simple, he said. If only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. The line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. Who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart? So the problem goes deeper than upbringing or circumstances or education or intellect. And for sure, these all play a part. But Christians believe that the Bible makes clear that the problem with humanity goes deeper. It's a problem of the heart. So this then raises the question and brings us to my third and final point. What can address the human heart? Well, it all sounds pretty depressing, doesn't it? If the human heart is the world's biggest problem and education cannot fix it or improve it, what hope do we have? And if the Bible says that because of our heart problem, our sin, we cannot approach a holy God, And what hope would we have of redemption, of deliverance from the mess our hearts create? Well, the central belief of the Christian faith is that Jesus came not to help us turn over a new leaf or become better people, but something deeper and far more profound. He came to cleanse our guilty hearts, our defiled hearts. He came to renew them, to give us a heart that enables us to love God and other people, and making it thus possible to be reconciled, brought back to God, forgiven for the thoughts and the deeds that originate in our hearts, and to deal fully with the consequences that arise from our heart issue. Christianity is not a self-help religion whereby God does his part and we do our part, and so somehow we collaborate together to improve ourselves. This isn't collaborative learning. No, God must do everything. And wonderfully, he has through his Son, the Lord Jesus. Now, this is something I know will be followed up and expanded on at some of the events later in the week. And I'd really encourage you to tune in to some of these, even if just something this evening has piqued your interest or you're asking questions. So, to sum up them, the Bible doesn't say that our biggest problem in life is lack of education. God didn't send a tutor or a mentor to educate us out of ignorance. Of course, Jesus was a great teacher. God doesn't want us to become more learned and wise in order to please him, or indeed to rescue humanity, if that were even possible. God the Father didn't send a teacher, he sent a saviour, his own Son, to rescue us from our biggest problem, and that is the problem of our own hearts. So, yeah, I will be around. Please do ask questions, and if you want to catch up over a Zoom call a little bit later, great to see you.
Fab. Thank you so much for that, Lizzie.
Mm.
Yeah, as a teacher, that's really interesting to listen to, and I think it kind of takes the pressure off us as educators, I think, because you see all these stories in the news where like young children have done things wrong and messed up or committed crimes, and a lot of the backlash like surrounding it is, why weren't they taught not to do that? And I think that falls on educators and teachers, and yeah, paints them in maybe not the best light. So knowing that there's something so much more to educate ourselves with other than what we get taught in school is really, really liberating, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we've got a couple questions. Our first one that's come up is, what would God say the purpose of learning is? It's quite a big one.
That is, I mean, I guess it depends whether you mean we're talking about a kind of spiritual learning or a kind of academic learning. And, you know, I'm sure, well, the Bible encourages people to kind of to use their brains and to engage that and to think deeply about things. But that doesn't mean that the purpose of learning is to acquire knowledge. And in fact, wisdom is something that's very different from knowledge. And the Bible talks a lot about wisdom. And true wisdom is aligning yourself and coming back to the all-wise, the all-knowing God. Yeah,
definitely. I think on my course especially, there's been a lot of emphasis on teaching the whole child, not just the academic part of the child. And I guess that's kind of what I would assume, even like from removing a Christian perspective. But I think the purpose of learning should be to educate an entire child and nurture all of them rather than just their academic abilities. So when you think about where God would stand on that, it's really interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, we have another question. So this one is, does knowing that we can't teach the heart take the pressures off teachers to create the best people possible?
Yeah, I would hope so. And I would hope, I do feel for teachers. I think, although it's a fab idea of kind of being this holistic teacher who kind of speaks to every part of the child, and there is a real pressure, I think, on teachers to do everything and to develop this little individual that is going to excel in every area, including being kind of introspective and self-reflective, and including being good citizens, and including being, kind of respectful and understanding of all kinds of things. And, ultimately, there are some things we just cannot address. And teachers cannot be themselves saviors. And also teachers cannot be parents. And, I do feel a lot for teachers nowadays. I mean, I only left the profession just under a year ago, but I certainly felt that kind of pressure sometimes to create the best people possible. Can't do it.
And then I guess knowing that even in like doing that, there's so much more. So like Jesus gives us everything we could possibly need, and will give that child everything they could possibly need. So I guess knowing that in what we can't provide, there is someone and something that can provide that instead. That's a massive comfort. Okay, and our third and final question is there value in teaching children good morals?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And I'd say 80% of me says yes. And then 20% of me says, let's think about that a bit more deeply, because I don't think any of us would disagree that there is value in teaching children good morals. Don't go and steal that kid's toy. Don't go and punch that kid in the face. Make sure you share with others. Make sure you don't cheat. But there comes a line where morality gets very blurred, and actually what one person's interpretation of morality is can sometimes not align with another person's interpretation. I think, there are some common values that pretty much all humans have, and particularly in our culture, as I've said, we should teach our kids, to be kind and respectful, and to, say please and thank you, whatever. We're British. We really like manners, don't we? But ultimately, there will be things that we disagree on. And unless we come to a source outside of ourselves that has objective truth, and that's what, as Christians, we believe is the Bible, then our morality will be slightly ethereal, slightly difficult to understand. But, I teach my kids. I try and teach them, my own children at home, to be kind and gentle, and to share with one another. But I teach it them doesn't mean they always do it.
Yeah, you can say it as many times as you like, but whether or not they actually do it is another question. Yeah. Wow, fab. Thank you so much for that, Lizzie. That was really interesting, and a really powerful talk as well, just to hear that message. But like not only teachers, but I think it really speaks to people who aren't thinking of teaching as well.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So if you're watching and you found this interesting, we have one more talk of our events week. Tomorrow night, same time, same on YouTube again, is Jesus the Fix Humanity Needs? So a more gospel look at things rather than a subject look at things. So that'd be really interesting. If anything that you've watched recently has spoken to you, feel free to come along to that. And we'd love to see you. We'd love to have you. We also have a Zoom call in as soon as this live stream ends. Go to the Zoom call in the description, and there'll be a couple of us there just ready to chat through anything that you might have thought about, or just say hello, see a few faces. We'd love to have you. And also, we have small groups as part of the CU, which are open to anybody to join. If you want a community of students who are open to discuss questions, both biblical and sometimes not, or just every week just join together and have a real community that cares for you and is just wanting to get to know you and talk about the big things of life, then drop one of our pages, so the Facebook or the Instagram, drop a message, or if you know anyone there currently at the Christian Union, drop someone a message and we can organise getting you involved with one of those. We'd love to have you. And you can find all our previous events, so we've had them all spread out this past week and the week before. You can find them all on our YouTube channel, they're all still there. And or just check out our Instagram and our Facebook and all the details will be there. So I hope you've enjoyed this talk. Thank you again for Lizzie for that talk, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll now move on to the Zoom, and link is in the description. Hope to see you there.